Well, if you paid attention to what was happening with the PHLY Flyers show last night for the NHL Draft Lottery party that they had, we're gearing up for something very similar in 6 days back here at the PHLY studios, where the Sixers and the rest of the lottery teams will have their chance at the number 1 overall pick on Monday night. And in the Sixers' case, staying in the top 6 and not allowing that pick to convey to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday with Derek Bodner. I'm Devon Givens. Bree producing. Kyle, as he told you, will have the next couple of days off, so we'll miss our buddy Kyle. He'll have the day off. But if you do go to allphly.com, he was able to put up his latest story on a NBA prospect, a draft prospect, in the name of Colin Murray Boyles, the scouting report for Colin Murray Boyles, the forward from South Carolina, defensive star with a potentially fatal flaw that we've discussed plenty on this show. So make sure you go to allphly.com and read it, because he can't shoot. And there's some
or
other
at least
things.
He doesn't shoot.
Or
we
he
actually
doesn't
don't know
shoot.
if he can shoot because he never does it.
Right. But is it similar to the Ben Simmons thing, or, will it be like that? I suspect that he would shoot the basketball. It just may not be, He can't get away with the stuff that he's getting away with in college and the pros. So he's going to have to shoot the basketball. He is. All right.
No, I mean, we don't need to rehash it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I do disagree with Kyle a little bit. Like, I think you have to have some level of faith that he will get at least a passable NBA jump shot. Not next year, but at some point over the next 5 years. I think he's going to need that to justify a top 5 pick, even though I believe in the defense wholeheartedly. I have very little doubt that the defense is going to translate. He's going to be an impact defender. In order to be on the floor, the number of minutes he's going to need to be, and to be able to be versatile enough and play around the kind of players the Sixers have, or really any team has, he needs to be respectable from the perimeter. So we will see. And people do it. Like, people go from not shooting in college at all to becoming good jump shooters. It is one of the toughest things to evaluate. A lot of it comes down to, scouting the person as much as scouting their form and scouting their habits and their work ethic and their willingness to take coaching. But I do think he needs to have a respectable jumper. Not to be, like I said, not to be an NBA player, but to be top 5, top 6 pick worthy.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we'll make sure you go read that at allphly.com to check out the Colin Murray Boyles story written by Kyle Neubeck. That's up there at allphly.com. Go check it out. If you haven't already signed up, please do, because that's how you read the story on our website. But we have a lot to get to today. Yesterday we missed our because we had to get out of there. Kyle has some stuff to do, so we wanted to make sure we got out on time. But today, while we will get out at some point, we didn't get to our daily Tankathon spin, so we have to get to that a little bit later. Some news and notes that we'll talk about a little bit later. And they may not necessarily just be news and notes at the end, because we'll fit them in on the back end of the show in general, because they are conversational. We'll get to those as well. Plus, the 76ers, they have a new arena name.
Yeah.
So we'll tell you what that is if you haven't already seen it. But today we wanted to start off because, look, folks, I think for the most part, of the three of us, I've been the more vocal one about Tre Johnson from Texas as being a fan. I have also soured on the things that are the negatives that we've all talked about. We all agree on those that could be problematic for Tre Johnson in the NBA, and specifically with the Philadelphia 76ers as we discuss him. But that being said, so far, one of Derek's old colleagues, Jonathan Givony, well-respected in college basketball, in the NBA.
He's not that old. Let's calm down here.
Well, very true.
Former colleague.
Yeah, former colleague of Derek Bodner's, Jonathan Givony, well-respected, ESPN, Draft Express. Of course, over the last week and a half, he's been out in California watching a lot of prospects. And one of them that he's focused on twice and tweeting them out is Tre Johnson, the 6'6" guard from Texas, who had a really good rookie season, freshman season at Texas. The team wasn't very good. They made it to the to the field of 68, was knocked out, did not make the big tournament because poor coaching, not enough talent in general to overcome some of the flaws that they had. And with all of that, Tre Johnson was still a top prospect in this upcoming June draft. He has fallen, though, outside of the conversation for all of us. As much as I may have liked him more than Derek and Kyle, they at least love the scoring, love all of that stuff, and have moved him back in from time to time for where he fits into the overall rankings of things for them. But Jonathan Givony, Derek, has shown some video, and today he came out with a NBA draft lottery odd for every team and potential picks that may fit best with all the teams. And with the Sixers sitting at 5th, the odds 10.5% to get the number 1 overall pick to stay in the top 4, 42.1%, and we know about 5 and 6 as well. But as he puts it in his piece here on ESPN.com, he says the most likely pick if they stay at 5 is Fears. He starts off there. But then he goes into both Fears and Tre Johnson have had pretty good postseason early pre-draft workouts where there's some really good buzz about both of those players, elevating them from maybe back end of 10 and moving them up into the top 5. And as he stated, they're potentially starting their range at number 3, depending on what the team is, because there's some enthusiasm in NBA circles around both prospects and long-term futures. But as we focus on, because we've talked about Fears already, and we can get into him a little bit later, but as we focus here, Derek, on Tre Johnson, and you look at Tre Johnson as a prospect at 6'6", and one of you will write up a piece on him at allphly.com before the lottery on Monday. How much, knowing Givony the way that you do, going back and watching some of the film yourself and looking at Tre Johnson postseason, how much have you maybe changed your opinion a little bit on at least the prospect here and fixing those flaws once he gets into whatever situation it is?
Yeah. Look, Johnson has always been tough for me because on pure talent, on pure, just diversity of scoring, he is a top 3, top 4 guy. I think pretty comfortably. In terms of just creating his own shot, being able to make tough shots, being able to score at all 3 levels, diversity of his jump shot, he is as polished, despite the fact that he's still really young. Mm-hmm. He is as polished as anyone in this class, and he has pretty good positional size at 6'6". And when I watch him play as a scorer, I can buy into all of that. He's got some massive holes in his game that every time I then go in and watch with a little bit of closer eye, start to really frustrate me. Part of it is the passing, which if you were going to be an offensive focal point, he is a well below average passer. Not as bad as someone like Ace Bailey, but still well below average for what you need him to be. And his defense is atrocious. It is just flat out atrocious. And I don't even know of a nicer way of saying that. I don't even think I'm being harsh.
It's bad. It's really bad.
And, it is one thing, like we can blame the coaching, and I don't think Texas was coached all that well. We can talk about growth. I always hate, it's one thing if like a player doesn't know his offensive role. I'm willing to blame that on coaching and environment. I'm less willing to blame he just didn't pay attention off ball on coaching. That is an individual, point of pride, taking it upon yourself to be the best version of yourself. And on defense, he did not look like he cared enough to do that. So I am not willing to say put him in a better environment and he's going to all of a sudden grow into a different kind of defender. I do think, he carried a very high scoring burden and creation burden for his team, for Texas, that I think you put him around more talent, I could see his passing growing a little bit. Like I said, I don't think he's a non-passer in the way that Ace Bailey is right now. He has a long way to go to get to where he needs to be, but the defense is really what scares me off.
No, it does. Now, I'll stick with the passing first because, as Kyle says, when we have our guys that we like, mine does tend to lean, and we similarly like the same players, but maybe...
It's funny because your cousin got in the NBA because of everything other than getting a bucket.
Right, and yeah. I love that player too, which is why we both like Carter Bryant, who we'll probably talk about at some point down the line. Carter Bryant from Arizona, the freshman.
Might not be able to score, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the class.
Yep. Yeah, so he really is. And you know what I was thinking when I was looking at him? OG Anunoby could score at Indiana, but it was like, what if he can turn into OG Anunoby? Yeah. That kind of player. But that being said, I like guys who can also just flat out score the basketball. But when I do watch him, I recognize the flaws. I recognize those things. But I'll just stick on the passing first. Because the passing, when I do look at the passing, there's stuff there.
Yeah.
When you talk about the Ace Bailey part, where it's very rare that you see Ace Bailey pass the basketball the way that you would want him to, Tre Johnson does pass the basketball. And when you play at that position in high school, as good of a scorer as you are, you're going to have to pass the rock. You're going to have to know how to do that stuff. So it's in there. It's just a matter of, do you see it? Do you read it the right way? And are you willing to make those passes and do the things that you need to get everybody else involved? So there are glimpses of the passing that's right there staring him in the face to be a pretty good passer. It's not saying he's going to be Tre Young in the NBA. It's not saying that he's going to be Tyrese Halliburton in the NBA. It's just saying that it's there. He just has to do it. And I do wonder if the coaching is the one that's going to pull it out of him, because when he gets to the NBA, especially in a situation like the Sixers that's a bit unique versus going to Washington or Charlotte or some of these other franchises, he is going to have to take a back seat, like we've talked about with a number of these prospects, where they have always been the guy. In college, they were the guy. When they get to Philadelphia, they are not going to be the guy. They're going to have to find a role to play to get their minutes on the floor. Yeah. It's oftentimes when you're that type of player, yes, defense is going to get you on the floor, but the shot making is what is going to get him on the floor. But the passing has to be a secondary thing for him within the flow of a Sixers offense that is potentially on the floor at any given time. Embiid, Maxey, George, and another player where he's going to have to give the rock up. So it's there. He just has to be willing to do it.
Yeah. And that is one where, like, when you watch Texas, they just did not, like, there was no Robin to his Batman, despite the fact that he was very young. Like, there was just not a pure somebody you can give the ball to and ask them to go create. So I think that is one where I say yes. You put him in that environment, doesn't really have a lot of offensive help around him. That might get him to his worst instincts. That might get him to the point where he is looking for a bucket more than maybe he would be on a Sixers team where he's got 2, 3, 4 other offensive options around him. And I do agree. It's not that he had no court vision. It's that he just at times seemed like he was putting his head down and predetermining, 100%. I am going out there 100%. And I'm trying to score on this possession. So I do think that's one where you can get him out of, some of his bad habits. It's not necessarily going to be easy. A lot of players like this don't necessarily change that. This is another one where the interview process comes out very important, and you hope to get a chance to talk to him and try to see what makes him tick and see what will change when the circumstances change. So I do certainly have, and to be honest, if he does grow as a playmaker, not like you're never going to ask him to run point, but if he can be at least, it's when you make the passes, when the defense rotates, you then create hesitation when the defense tries to rotate the next time.
Yep.
It creates shots not only for yourself, but it also makes your future shots easier because defenders are just paralyzed. You need him to get to that point. You don't need him to get to the point where he is running your offense. Just, really create hesitation in the defense. I have more confidence that he will get there than I do on defense. Now, if I was 100% confident he would get there, I would ignore the defense. Because shot creation is still the most valued, the skill set that is the hardest to acquire. If you get someone like him, and I believe in the shot making, at 6'6", with that kind of diversity, I think he will score at the next level. So if I felt like he was also going to be a creator, I would overlook the defense in a heartbeat. And that's where I'm really focusing on over these next couple of weeks, because if I believe that he can get to that passing threshold that I need, he could sneak into the top 3 or 4 for me. Like you talk about, you're the biggest fan out of this group, and you are, but I could see myself getting there. Mm-hmm. I need to buy into that passing. Really, I'd love to go back and find some real good tape from high school.
Yeah.
Not that high school is all that meaningful, but at least you have him in a different environment and see what makes him tick.
Now, I did want to, so as you say that, and I look at, because the NBA is a lot of pick and roll.
Yep.
The 6'6" helps.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he keeps that live dribble helps.
Yep.
And if you are next to someone like Joel Embiid, or even as a backup role, a Dembona, who with the lobs and showing that the better pass, better hand placement and all for Dembona, squeezing the pill, not dropping it on the floor, where that could be a pretty good pick and roll partner with a guy like him. And to your point, if you make that first and that second and that third pass and it's successful, now it's going to change for you.
Yep.
Where your scoring does come into play, where you can get to the basket, you can hit that runner, you can hit that pull-up jumper, or you can spray it out to the next man as a secondary assist to someone in the corner around the three-point line, or even someone cutting along the baseline because of all the action that you guys did on the previous play. So that's where I see that type of stuff with him and the good of the passing. I see the vision. He needs to see the vision because he's the one making that pass. because it looks like it could really be there and it could really be dynamic in a Philadelphia situation with the players that will be surrounding him. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
No, and he would be unique among the Sixers guards just because of the size, just because of the ability to really shoot off the dribble coming out of college. He would be a good addition. Like if you go into there with a 4-guard lineup of Maxey, McCain, Grimes, and Tre, all right, defensively you've got 3 pretty negative defenders. Maxey improving, but still, like, he's not a plus on that end yet. You worry about the defense. You worry a little less if Joel Embiid was prime Joel Embiid. You can count on him.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've said a bunch of times, if you have a glut of guards, you go in there, you see who really separates themselves, and you go from there, because especially if 2 of them are on rookie contracts and one of them is Tyrese Maxey, it's not like you're going to have trouble moving any of them. Only one you'd really worry about a little bit is Quentin Grimes, just because the contract is going to be kicking in. But even still, like, he is versatile enough that like you can be flexible. Just give me talent, and Tre definitely has talent.
And you're talking about 6'5" and 6'6" with with Quentin Grimes and Tre Johnson, and then we know about the height for both Maxey and McCain. But you're looking at different versatility when it comes to, now you have 2 bigger guards next to your 2 smaller guards, and they may not all be on the floor, of course, at the same time, but you do have some different types of guards that you're going to have out there on the floor. And Tre Johnson, we are talking about today. We'll continue to talk about Tre Johnson on the other side, mixing the fears part just because of the Jonathan Givony piece that was written at ESPN.com.
That one surprised me. We'll get to that.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. We'll get to the NBA playoffs. We'll get to the NBA playoffs in a little bit. Our daily Tankathon spin a little bit later, all right here on this Tuesday. Derek Bodner, Devon Givens, Bree, President of Basketball Ops, here with us right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
All right, first up, we have to tell you about Empire Today, because just like your favorite team needs a home court, except for last night. Don't tell
any of those teams.
Yeah. Your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all seen some of those big box stores who might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with the flooring might have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. The flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered, so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
Folks, there were some really good basketball games last night, and as you sat there and watched them, I'm sure you were comfortable with what you already had, but you might have been able to be a little more comfortable courtesy of our good people, Ashley Furniture. And right now they have the Ashley Fan Cave Sweepstakes, so you can watch those games in the fall on your Ashley Furniture. Yes, we've teamed up with Ashley to give one lucky winner the chance to bring home this flexible, ultra comfortable sectional, plus a $1,000 gift card to bring your dream fan cave to life. The Mod Max sectional is spacious, built for the most diehard sports fans, where you know you're going to put a dent in the cushion. You might as well be comfortable. Whether you're hosting movie night, kicking back with the family, or most importantly, game day in the fall, summer, fall, whatever it might be, this sectional is the upgrade your space needs. Entering is very easy. All you have to do is head to allphly.com/Ashley to learn about the contest, see if you're eligible, fill it out right there, your info, and you're simply in the running. It's that easy, but don't wait. These sweepstakes won't last forever. Get your entry in now, and you could be watching the next big game on a brand new Mod Max sectional, courtesy of Ashley. Mod Max modular sectional by Ashley, your choice of color from blue or gray, and configuration up to 5 pieces. Must reside within our local delivery area to qualify for the Fan Cave giveaway. Again, visit allphly.com/Ashley for the full contest information and eligibility requirements. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Tuesday, and we need to tell you about the draft lottery party. 6 days away. The NBA draft lottery, the 76ers, terrible season, 24 wins. But hey, they're in the mix. They finished with the 5th worst record in the NBA, which puts them with the 5th best lottery odds. And with that, they have a really good chance of keeping that pick, maybe even moving up as high as number 1 for the right to select Cooper Flagg with that number 1 overall pick. But we want to be here and watching it with you back here at the PHLY studios. You must be a diehard member to participate in our draft lottery party next Monday night. It starts at 6 p.m. overall. The draft lottery will be at 7 p.m. because there's a game at 7:30. So our time will probably run between 6 and 8:30, somewhere around then. But you have to be, again, a member to sign up. So please go do that at allphly.com. Sign up, become a diehard member. Not only take advantage of hanging out with us with these events and others, you get 20% off the events, 20% off merchandise. You also get the great articles like the Colin Murray-Boyles piece from Kyle Neubeck at allphly.com. Derek writing on Yakachunas earlier in the week as well. Everything that Charlie had to write about with the NHL draft lottery with the Flyers falling to 6, man. 6.
It was tough.
Yeah, that was tough. It was definitely tough. Of course, the guys with Fran and Bo and Zach and Les Bowen writing about the Birds, they still just pumping out a ton of articles. And Bob Cooney dropped something on the Phillies a little bit earlier today at allphly.com, Jim Salisbury as well. So become a diehard member, join the community. It's been a great, great time for us this first year and a half. It's only getting better. And with us, it's going to be pretty cool next Monday as the Sixers stay in the top 6 and hopefully jump up to number 1 overall. That's a pretty good show that they put on last night.
It was, and it was interesting how the NHL does that. So, NBA has never given you that kind of visibility into the lottery drawing process.
Would you prefer it like that?
I think the NBA has always been a little concerned that they don't want to draw attention to the lottery aspect of it.
Right. Because they've already had bad things with the frozen envelope and things of that nature. Or
but I don't think
you rigged it for the Spurs back when David Robinson was hurt and Tim Duncan, LeBron James.
Visibility into that and a little transparency would make people question it more?
I don't think it would make them question it more because it's right there. But what I do think they've helped themselves with is allowing the media to be in there. And when you have people as valuable as, let's say, Zach Lowe, who people trust, and he is written on it as one who has been able to be in there for many, many years and watching how the process goes, I think they do a pretty good job in that way. So I don't mind it. The thing I hate, of course, is the television angle where they got to drag it out. Yeah.
Oh no, that's
the worst.
That was brutal. All right, we got the first 3 ping pong balls drawn. Let's go to a break. Nope.
Well, you know how it goes in the NBA, people. So get ready because the last 3 picks, especially if your team is in that top 3, that last 3, we're gonna go to commercial break. We'll come back as they run a 10-minute commercial break, which it seems like, as you have to wait and find out where your team actually lands. So that's the part that stinks. But
it does.
Yes, it does. All right. So again, May 12th, next Monday, right here, you have to sign up. We have a decent number of people already signed up. We want more. Sign up, folks. We've all heard you say you're going to do it. Do it so we can see you guys next Monday.
Yeah.
All right, Tre Johnson. And we'll get to fears a little bit because you said you wanted to get to that. But Tre Johnson on the defensive side.
Yeah.
It is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's real bad on ball.
It's bad.
I don't think he gets down in a good stance. I don't think he fights through screens on the perimeter roll. And off ball, he just completely falls asleep.
He's lazy.
He's
lazy on defense. Yeah. He is.
And the optimist in me would love to say when he's not asked to be the focal point night in and night out, those habits might get better. But I've watched enough young prospects that come in with questionable defense, and it's just it is hard to get those habits out. And a lot of times, it's just real, defense is such a commitment and it's such a mentality that it's real hard to just flip a switch when all of a sudden you're getting, a huge payday and you're in the NBA. It's real tough.
Yeah.
It's not like he really even showed flashes. It was consistently bad. That being said, it has happened. Ben Simmons was a bad defender at LSU.
Was he bad, or he just didn't, like you said, he didn't commit because he wasn't all that invested in college?
No, he didn't seem like he cared about the whole college experience.
He did not. Yeah. No, and if you watch that Showtime piece.
That's a fair point.
Right, but look at Trae Young, right? Trae Young, not a defender in college, elite shot maker.
So you're just saying don't draft any Trays?
Well, not all of them. No, I'm not saying that. But look at Trae Young. I mean, Trae Young had that reputation, but he was elite at scoring in the way that he was. But he was a franchise player where that was a top 5 pick. It wasn't a question about it. We've seen Tre Johnson drop all the way down to the back end of the number 10 spot in some mocks. And even when we did our mock draft last week, I think we had him at like 11 for Dallas.
I do think he's the type that he will rise up draft boards because I think he's going to look good in these kinds of settings. Like these workouts are mostly meaningless, but they do serve as a reminder of, I mean, they're not meaningless. The meaningful part comes from the interviews and getting to sit down and talk to them. But the actual on-court workouts are mostly meaningless, especially nowadays that nobody goes up against any kind of competition anymore. But they do serve as a platform to remind teams of, oh, I can shoot the ball really, really well. And I can shoot the ball in so many different, off of screens, off the catch, off the dribble, step back, pull up, anything on the floor I can make. And that he will remind teams. I expect he will probably end up going somewhere in that 5 through 8 range.
Have you ever in your scouting life of looking at the prospects during the draft process, have you ever been to any of these agent driven workouts and seeing how it worked? You don't
usually
have to say
the
who.
media isn't invited in most of those.
Yeah.
I
know. That's what I'm saying.
I have seen a bunch of 1-on-0 workouts, so for sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious because he is going to thrive in those type of environments.
Yeah.
I've always liked, because this is our era of, he's working out against player X today, or it's 4 of those players today.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to find out what happens in that one. But now they don't do that anymore. So all he's going to do is go in there and shoot the lights out.
The first draft I covered was a DeMarcus Cousins, Derek Favors draft.
Yeah.
And those two went up against each other in Philly. And it's like that kind of stuff just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, so his defense is a problem. And you also, when it's a young player like that, if he doesn't commit and buy in, you're talking about a player that we mentioned in the first segment that he's not going to touch the ball a lot either, at least as the focal point. So could he get lost in that way where you get a little ticked off? Exactly. I'm not touching the basketball, therefore I'm not giving effort.
Usually when someone goes from being the focal point of an offense to maybe being 3rd or 4th or 5th in the pecking order, those habits sort of crystallize. And if someone had bad habits and are frustrated, they don't tend to go, all right, well, let me find a new way to contribute. Or at least that would be the fear that I would have, that he would pout a little bit more, that he would get lost a little more off ball because he's focused on the offensive touches he's not getting that he probably thinks he should. Can you find a way, and do you have the mentality that, all right, I'm not going to create as much, especially earlier on in my career. Let me find the little things that I've never really focused on in the past. Let me find those little things and find a way to add value so that I can stay on the floor and eventually work myself into a bigger offensive role. And again, I'm not going to say that he can't do that, but I'm saying that would be my fear, is that he doesn't react well to that, and some of those bad habits just become worse.
And when you do go watch, folks, if you haven't seen a lot of Tre Johnson, if you go back and watch any of his tape, even the good stuff, you'll see a lot of things that you might question, but certainly the weaknesses that are there as well. And I'm a fan, but you clearly see where he has these little choppy steps. He's kind of like jogging if he's not in the play, or if he's coming back and he's trailing the play and they're already, you see guys like they really just busted up the floor to try to get back into it. You saw Jared McCain do it a lot this season where there's a good run, there's a good pace of it.
Yeah.
Tre Johnson is really choppy, where he's just jogging, and you're like, dude, you need to get back in this play, whether it's offense or defense, because we can't have an odd man situation here, and it's not a good look for him.
If you gave Jared McCain Tre Johnson's
he's top 3
physical tools,
top 3
easily, or if you gave Tre Johnson Jared McCain's approach, you would have almost no questions.
Yeah, no question at all. So those are things that do exist with Tre Johnson, but the scoring could be really, really good. And I did look at Jonathan Givony's videos. He's showing the good stuff.
Yeah.
But he said, man, I was in that gym and I haven't seen anybody shoot like this in a while.
Oh, no, he can shoot the ball.
He can shoot
easily.
the basketball.
And again, he might end up, he could work myself into my top 5, maybe even higher than that, just based off of talent. And like I said, it's one thing because, we're paid literally to come to opinions right now. And when you're scouting, you're paid to do as much research as possible. But one thing you try very hard is to go, okay, but I don't know. I have sort of like these opinions. I have these beliefs. I have confidence levels, but you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I very rarely cross anyone actually off my list. And you leave some hope. Or if I'm wrong about this, then what does that player look like in 5 years? And with Tre Johnson, if I'm wrong about some of those habits, he could be an all-star player. And so because of that, I can talk myself into someone with that kind of upside and that kind of talent, even if I have my concerns, even if I don't have a high confidence level. Like let's say maybe I believe there's a 20% chance he figures out, starts doing the little things. That 20% might be high enough that you just go, all right, I'm looking at the other options. I don't see anyone with any comparable upside. I'm going to take a swing here.
Yeah.
Even if, like I said, it's one thing to have concerns. You can have concerns and still the upside be high enough. And the humility that you just trying to evaluate 18 and 19-year-old kids is just fraught with missteps. And especially when you're not like sitting here, we're not talking to his parents. We're not talking to his high school coaches. Like we're at a very big information deficit. You're really reacting to what he showed on the court and then trying to project forward 5, 6, 7 years. It's tough to do.
And you really need to feel good about my environment, taking in this player, taking in this personality, that the veterans will be good for him, the coaching staff is going to be good for him, and all of that is going to be fine for a player like that, and especially in the Sixers' unique situation, because when we look at this lottery, the Sixers are one that's in there. Of course, it could convey to OKC, but then you look at some of the others where it could convey to some other playoff teams like the Houston Rockets from the Phoenix Suns, things like that, where those are some interesting spots that these players don't often get a chance in the lottery to be in those types of, I'll just say it again, in that environment, because it's a unique situation with the Sixers from this 24 and 56 season, 24 and 58 season. So that's where you hope that after you do all the scouting, the interviews at the combine, the personals when they visit, and making sure that it all works out, that, okay, we can take in this guy and it'll all work out. Hey, we got 2 Texas guys in Quentin Grimes and Tyrese Maxey. Has he looked up to them in their careers, and can they blend him into our culture here, and he'll be fine because he'll listen to those types of guys. So those are the type of things that you'll look at for sure. Just for some of his freshman season, 6'6", 190 is what he's measured at for the season. I know Derek will maybe look at some of the measurements that he's had from maybe
being
a
6'10" wingspan, I think.
Yeah, 6'10" wingspan. So you like all that stuff. He was a all SEC player. Bree has the career stats up here. We appreciate it, Bree. Thank you. 42.7% from the floor, which is not great, but he shot 40% from 3, which is pretty darn good, especially as much as he had the basketball in his hands.
Oh, no, those are great numbers for that volume. And not only for that volume, but it's one thing to have volume as like a spot-up catch-and-shoot guy. He has volume of largely self-creation. Like I said, pulling up off the pick and roll, step backs, side steps. Like he can make legitimately every three in the book. Usually when guys are that much of a focal point at that age, with that kind of shot diversity, you're talking about like the guy we were talking about the other day, Yakachunas. I believe in that shot to a high degree, but it's a low percentage because he's a young kid taking very tough shots as a focal point of an offense. You don't see young kids with that kind of volume and those lack of options around him make 40%. That's an incredible number.
That is an incredible number. All SEC freshman team, and he was the SEC Rookie of the Year for the 1 year at Texas. So 33 games played. They did not make the actual 64, field of 64. Right. They made the 68, knocked out in that first game. And
disappointing in that game too. Yeah. Certainly down the stretch.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And again, he was young. Like he was 18 pretty much the entire season. I think he just turned 19. So this was it was a good freshman campaign.
Yeah, and even looking at that photo that Bree has there with the stats, you look at him and you can see while he's thin, you can look at his shoulders and tell he can put some muscle on there and still and get a lot stronger. He's so young.
I don't think you're talking about like Isaiah Joe here. Like I think he can fill out a little.
Yeah,
bit.
He can fill out. It's like so much more.
Not quite. I think VJ probably has a stronger base to work on. But like some people are like, oh, VJ's too skinny. It's like VJ's super young. Like he clearly, I think, has a frame that can fill out.
Absolutely.
I think Tre can put a little bit of weight on.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a little pause here. When we come back, Derek wanted to say something about the other guard that we have talked about before, but he wanted to mention because Gavoni pointed him out in this story about, man, the best, that 5? Whoa, could be the best pick.
It's not even 5. It's 5 with the Sixers. We'll get
5 with the Sixers. We'll get into that. We'll get into the playoffs and much, much more. Daily Tankathon spin right here on this Tuesday, the PHLY Sixers podcast.
All right. Well, if you are working from home, which we're not doing today, but a little bit today in writing, but did a show there yesterday. We'll do a show tomorrow. If you're working from home, it's time to stop calling plays from the couch. With a TrueMark Financial HELOC Select, you can tap into your home's equity and finally upgrade that home office, build out a better space, or just finish projects you've been putting off. With a HELOC Select, you get a great low rate, flexible access, pull funds all at once or only when you need them. Lower rates than most personal loans and no penalties if you pay it off early. Visit TrueMark.com/PHLY to apply and turn your work from home game into a winning play. Terms and conditions apply. Visit TrueMark.com/HELOC for details. Federally insured by the NCUA. Equal Opportunity Lender, NMLS 404938.
Folks, I want to tell you about Parx Casino, my casino of choice, and hopefully it's your casino of choice as well. It's very easy to get to as well, located in Bensalem. You take the Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike, the Excite Center, and Parx Casino. This is how you win. It's one of the many things that I love to do, and again, my casino of choice. I've talked about the Excite Center in the past where I've gone to see Deion Cole, one of my favorite comedians, and it was a great show. It's a great environment, great show, food afterwards, and it's all right there for you. Parx Casino, again, the #1 casino and very close to Philadelphia. The Excite Center is the state-of-the-art entertainment venue located inside Parx Casino, named one of the best places to see the country's best comedians and music headline. And it's also very easy to navigate on their website if you want to go check it out and take a peek at everything that they do, in fact, have. Visit parxcasino.com to buy tickets for all shows, get a good look at everything that's there. Pre-game the shows at their amazing beer garden. It's really cool, and especially when it's bright outside and sunny. You sit out there in the beer garden with all the sun. It's just like it's really cool. You have to experience it. Play some pop culture slots, roulette, cards, and other table games you love while you wait for your show or your table to get something to eat. It's a great spot. Parx Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21 and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also want to tell you, as we welcome you back to the PHLY Sixers podcast, about the second annual golf event that we have. You going to golf?
No.
All right.
I'll hang out, though.
We'll
I'll be there. I'll hang out in the clubhouse. We can talk. We can have a beverage or two. I will not embarrass myself on the golf course.
And you would talk about what the Sixers are going to do with the #1 pick, right?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think there's much debate there, but let's say the #4 pick, because that will at least lead to more conversation.
A little more conversation. Yeah. You're absolutely right. So you hang out with us once again at the second annual PHLY. It's just going to be a great time. The PHLY Liberty Golf Tournament, the second annual, will open at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. Jaws' spot. I've been there many times, having to do shows there, or just because I was invited, because Jaws is the man. Join our crew, the whole PHLY crew, and our diehard community for the golf tournament in 2025, presented by Xfinity. We'll get to Xfinity a little bit later. And the 2 p.m. shotgun start, Valley Brook Country Club, presented by Xfinity. It's a great, great time. So we hope that you're able to sign up. Diehard members only. Become a diehard member so you can join us at the spot. Signups include 18 holes of golf with a cart, limited edition PHLY tournament, golf tournament gifts and tee prizes, taste of Philly dinner, and a post-round ceremony at the pavilion. Unlimited draft beer for 2 hours after the round, contests on the course, and a post-round raffle with Philly memorabilia. Diehards get $50 off of a foursome and $15 off as an individual event. Just use the code PHLY Diehard Golf for our upcoming event. All right, man. Jeremiah Fierce. This piqued your interest in the story.
Well, it piqued my interest because, the Sixers are probably I have said in the past, I believe in Fierce and the style that he plays and his decision-making, and I think the talent's pretty close. Probably give Tre the edge on talent, but I think when you add in everything, on a neutral team, I probably believe in Fierce more than Tre Johnson.
Because you trust him more.
I trust the decision-making. I trust the approach. I think he can grow into a role easier. The Sixers are probably the worst fit for Fierce of anyone in the lottery. I've mentioned it in the past. He was 6'1" without shoes. 6'1". I don't care if he's listed at 6'4" on his team's website. He was 6'1" without shoes with a 6'5" wingspan. I just don't know how that's going to fit. Forget about fitting in with all of the Sixers guards. I don't think you can play him next to either Maxey or McCain.
And folks, Derek was on this when we talked about McCain last year. So it's not like it's a hate against Fierce because you pointed out how much you like Fierce.
Sure, and I still have concerns.
It was just a fit next to Maxey.
So adding a third one in there is really I think that's where you get to the point where it's you can't have your entire core built around 3 guards who don't pass a Kyle Neubeck height test. It's just really, really tough. And again, it's not that I don't like Fierce. I actually like Fierce a lot, but if you're going to give me a similar talent and someone like Tre, who has at least the size where if he figures stuff out defensively, that he can play next to Maxey or play next to McCain, that would be tough. That'd be tough.
Yeah, and he doesn't mention the fit here. He just says, Gavoni says, most likely pick if they stay at number 5 is Fears, point guard, all of that. He gets more into the McCain Maxey fit alongside with Tre Johnson and not Fears. He doesn't really break down that part. So I'm really curious to know why he did go there with Fears over Johnson in that spot, because of your point of you're talking about 3'6" guards with shoes on.
Yeah.
Three.
Yeah. No, he's really short.
And Kyle Lowry is different because he's a veteran, and you know why he was here. And
Kyle Lowry had a badonk, which helped him defend.
And the
Fears
coach loves him.
Yeah.
Right. This is different. This is different.
Fears is not tall enough or big enough or strong enough. I just don't know how you expect to make that work defensively long term. Like, if you're going to blow everything up and just blow everything up, then you can talk me into it.
Yeah, because then you're probably trading McCain or Maxey in that spot, and you can talk it into just the rebuild. Like Brooklyn, that might work because they have a lot of holes in their personnel. That could be a point guard of the future.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I like Fears a lot. Like I said, if you were just telling me like ignore team, I could have Fears ranked top 5. I just think the Sixers of the lottery teams, Sixers are the worst team.
All right, next Monday, Sixers, hopefully not, but if they knock on wood and they just don't get the number 1 pick, but they stay in the top 5, 6. To wrap this Tre Johnson conversation up, 5 or 6, is he in the mix at 5? I know how you feel about 6. Today, is he in the mix at 5?
Oh, he's in the mix.
Tre Johnson.
I haven't honestly, there are probably 5 players, and I refuse to cross off any of them as possibilities. I have never had a big board, and part of it's that I'm still doing a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have really, since the season ended, been diving in and watching, as many games as we can on these 10 or so prospects. I still have some players that I need to do a little bit more work on. So I always hesitate to either cross people off or put out a definitive list until I feel like I have enough information to go on. But part of it's also that there's just so much. Players are so close and there's so little separation that my opinion is changing at time. Like, what I'm willing to live with, how much I'm willing to bet on, on talent and upside changes on an almost daily basis.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it is. I'm certainly not crossing Tre off as a possibility at 5, but there's also probably about 5 or 6 people beyond the top 2 or 3 obvious ones that I refuse to cross off as well.
All right, and one final thing here, just on the guards, and then we'll get to some of the other stuff. RJ, the boy RJ, he's talking to That's Crazy in the chat. They're going back and forth about guards, and the one thing that stood out to me was he said if we get another guard, just chalk the future of this team until 2035. How do you feel? Tre Johnson is a guard, but he's a 6'6" guard with some size to him. A statement made like that of, listen, a fan does not want them to get another guard. Wing, big, yes, not another guard.
I have never, and this is going to contradict myself on Fears a little bit, because I just feel like Fears is such an edge case on how bad the fit is.
Yeah.
But if you told me that Fears was going to develop into an all-star caliber player, and you gave me a 100% chance that is going to happen, then I will throw away fit completely. You very rarely do you sit here and go, gosh, we just have too much talent and there's too much overlapping talent. Like, that is not something I worry about almost at all in the draft. Right. I worry about if you draft a player and he stinks, in 2 years, that top 6 pick is worth like a 25th pick. Like, if you try to trade a top 6 bust, a Marvin Bagley bust, 3 years down the line, you get nothing for him. If you sit here and in 2 years you go, all right, well, we drafted Tre Johnson, but now Jared McCain doesn't fit. As long as all 3 of them are good players, you can move them for assets. So I'm not going to sit here and look, we can talk about these guards. We don't know with certainty how the team's going to look in 3 years, much less in 2035. We don't know whether Jared McCain can play next to Tyrese Maxey at a high playoff level and hold their own defensively. We certainly don't know how these rookies will look on an NBA floor and next to players. I do not worry almost at all. And I realize I'm contradicting myself a little bit.
No, not really. I mean, it's the evaluation, so go ahead.
I just don't worry about oh no, we have too many good players. It's just that's not what I'm that's not how you screw up in the draft.
Especially if you have a lot of height around those guys, you might be able to get away with it.
Yeah.
And you have a healthy Joel Embiid.
Colby there is bringing up a good point. Don't draft 3 centers in a row. The centers are the ones where like you literally can't play them next to each other most of the time.
Yeah.
My pushback on that would be, I don't think they ever intended to keep 3 centers. I frankly think once Joel Embiid got back on the floor, they're getting rid of everyone.
They knew, yeah.
They were going to flip Joel Embiid. Not Joel Embiid.
Okafor.
They were going to flip Jahlil Okafor as quick as they could.
Yeah.
They thought he would have a good rookie season, put up numbers a la, Michael Carter Williams did a couple of years ago, and they could capitalize on that. Unfortunately, they brought in an advisor to hire his son like 2 months into his rookie season, and they never got a chance to really execute it. I don't think they were trying to build a team that way, but yes, that was a screw up.
Yeah. All right. So that'll wrap up our guard conversation. Where will they play, though? We know they're going to be playing in the arena. Let's talk about the playoffs last night, man, because 2 really good games.
Incredible games.
2 really, really good games last night.
So I guess where I'll start off, and this is kind of probably putting you in a tough spot because you're a little biased. If you're the Celtics and you're Thunder, which team would you be more concerned about being upset? Which team do you think has a higher chance of being upset?
Wow, that's a great question. I would probably say the Thunder in this one because of the pedigree of the Nuggets. And whatever it is that's working for them is working for them. The coach seems like he's getting through to them. They have been in this spot before. And while we all elevate the Thunder to that level of being in the NBA championship and winning this year, Derek, they were also supposed to advance to the conference finals last year, and they lost in the second round.
Yeah.
So with it, while they have been in that spot, they haven't been in the same type of spot that the Denver Nuggets have been in by winning a championship in the manner in which they did and losing how they did last year to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second round. They were up by 20 plus in Game 7 at home, and Minnesota came back and won. So I would say the Thunder, as much as I love the Thunder and watching them play, bad strategy last night from Daigneault, one of the rare mistakes by him last night. Jokic was on the sideline. They had no timeouts at the scorer's table. He could not come in the game, and they had the ball. Don't foul him.
Yeah.
Play it out.
No, it is. I do think it's one thing, and look, OKC's edge case because they won so many games, and they were so good, and they were so clearly the best team in the league all season that you want to believe in them even early on in their timeline. But there is sort of like a timeline towards contention because even the Nuggets, it took them, I think, in their first 4 years of having that core together, they won. I think they got out of the second round once.
Yep.
And they had a couple of first round losses in there. So it is tough to learn. Like learning how to win in the playoffs is a real thing. And that's why a lot of people, myself included, made some excuses for Joel early on. And then, 2 or 3 or 4 years turned into 6 or 7. And here we are now where he doesn't have a working knee. But, and certainly having someone like Jokic who you trust, in almost any situation you can imagine gives you a huge advantage. And having, a team where your core 4 has been together for so long and has so much chemistry and just almost anticipate what each other's going to do, that really helps in some of these close games. I think you saw that a bit last night as well. I do worry a little bit from Denver's perspective. They just don't have the depth.
They do
And if
not.
you get to a 6 or 7 game series, especially against a team like the Thunder who has so much depth, if that is eventually going to flip things and turn things the other direction, I worry about that from Denver's perspective. And I think there's some low-hanging fruit that OKC can do too. Like Chet was guarding Jokic way more than I expected. I don't think you want him on Jokic. I think you want him off ball so he can be a sort of terrorizing defender and alter shots from the weak side. He's just too thin for that matchup, and they went away with it. But he just frankly guarded him way more than I thought he would have. The reason why I might say New York upsetting Boston is a little more likely is because they just have a couple players who don't look right. Like Porzingis does not look right. Jaylen Brown, who had those bone bruises a couple weeks ago, does not look like he's back to where he was at this point last year. And I think because of that, he's settling a little bit. And on top of that, like if you are someone like Brown who's not 100% physically, the Knicks are a terrible matchup for that because they just have all the size in the world on the wings. So it's tough for me. If Boston, those 2 players specifically don't get right, then I worry about Boston quite a bit. And look, I think, for the most part, I guess we can swing this over to the 3-point shooting debate because you can't not have that today after they missed 45 threes, the most in NBA history, right? Yeah. I do think for the most part, I am more willing to live with threes than most people. I think for most teams, you're trading jumper for jumper most of the time. Like, I don't think most teams trade layups for 3-point shots. They trade 17-foot jumpers for 24-foot jumpers that happen to be worth an extra point. Boston is a one team that I watch and it just drives me nuts sometimes, both because, they will kick out from layups 2 corner threes at an alarming rate, but also because they just won't attack. Like, they do trade layups for threes, not so much layups that they are kicking out from, but layups they aren't even trying. Like, Jason Tatum last night, he comes off a pick and roll, has Towns switched on him, and launches a 29-footer with 18 left on the clock, and I'm losing my mind. It's like, these are the ones. And look, Towns is, he's a bad rim protector, and you should attack him at every point. Don't let him off the hook like that. It was
especially when he's in foul trouble.
Yeah.
Because he was in foul trouble early.
So I do think they're going to have 1 or 2 games where they just make a billion threes, and it doesn't matter. And it's going to look great. And I think if they are healthy, I think they should still win this series. But if Brown is hobbled a little bit or not at 100%, and if Porzingis struggles to stay on the floor and they have another bad shooting night like that or two, New York can absolutely steal this.
Last night was important.
Yeah.
Because number one, the Celtics, as I said on the show yesterday, they have beat the Knicks all 4 times this year. 2 blowouts, 2 close ones. One was, the final score was separated in a big number, but it was close throughout the game, and then they just went on one of those barrages that they went on a run and turned it around. Last night was important because they still got down by double digits and 20 points, and it looked like it was just going to be tough. Towns and Hart in foul trouble. Kel couldn't make a shot, and Brunson made enough. And then their hacker, Mitchell Robinson, he can't make free throws. The Knicks are missing free throws from Hart and Brunson. And you're like, what is going on here? It's just a repeat of what it's been all season long. But to your point, Porzingis leaves. Brown can't hit a shot. Tatum can't hit a shot. Pritchard can't hit a shot.
Yeah.
Al Horford looked old because they found that matchup and they exploited it. And they just did the right things. And then eventually you saw where Thibodeau made the adjustment from the hack of Robinson and putting Precious Achiuwa and dusting him off finally. As a Knicks fan, that it was like, where's this been? Yeah. And it worked. And then they go on their run and they make it happen. And then we saw where it turned around. So I hear you and I agree with you. Boston's going to make their shots. They're not going to miss 45 again. No. They're going to make 25.
And a lot of those, like even some of the shots, they were good looks. Yeah,
they're Boston looks. This is what they do. They make those threes. They did not last night. And in all honesty,
like I said, Towns is a bad interior defender, but he's also bad on the perimeter. And I think they can get those shots pretty consistently just because they have exploitable matchups on the perimeter and also I thought
he handled himself pretty well last night. Watching him so much this season, and it's not to say that you don't because I know you do, but watching him so much this season, you watching like, oh man, this is go back. Yeah. Come on, somebody come over and tag so he can get out of there. But he held up okay. It was just that he got himself in foul trouble and he had to really be careful so he didn't pick up that next one and that next one to have him really plant it to the bench. So I do think,
and Boston has, to borrow a Docism, Boston tends to play with their food a little bit, especially in the first 2 games. Like, they lose home court advantage almost every series, especially when you get in the second and third and finals. They tend to lose home court a lot and give it up, and they have to then come back. And everyone panics, and is this a year where they really screw it up? And then they come back and they win 4 of the next 5 and advance. If you had to ask me, put money down, which, I would still say OKC and Boston probably still takes it, just because I think they're the 2 better teams. But it's going to make the next week very fun.
Hey man, 2 great games last night, folks. Last night was the first time Derek was like, I wouldn't be mad if you wore some Knicks stuff in there for today's show. He even asked me on the way in, did you wear some Knicks stuff? I was like, nope. I don't own a lot, and I don't want to wear it, even though I do have what I have outside of the one shirt that I had on last week. Because that was more, of course, of Kel's face. I do have the jersey, so believe if he gets to the finals or the conference finals and he has a huge game, the jerseys will be out and on the PHLY Sixers show. I don't know if they'll be on there for the full 60 minutes, but they will be out.
I will say.
And he will not mind.
before we get to the overtime. I know you have a rooting interest. It's real hard for me to figure out which team I hate more and which team I'm rooting for.
Always hated the Celtics more. This is my number one team growing up.
The Knicks just knocked the Sixers out last year. And I know you've got rooting interest.
It's different, but even still, it would be more of I'm just watching. If that was the case. I'm just watching because I couldn't.
Hate them both.
I
3-3 series tie, they're both out. Don't even play game 7. Not
this year. Not as long as he's in that jersey. Not at all. And Gene says, Kale jerseys only.
Yep.
But that's all I would do. I wouldn't come in here with a three-quarter zip up and doing that. All right, we're going to overtime, folks. We appreciate you hanging on the TV side, allphly.com the rest of the way. And yes, I will not wear any Knicks gear on the show unless it's the finals with Kale.
Just did last week.
That was different because he was actually in it. It was him.
So you're saying if you wear something that has
If
Knicks,
I wore a 3/4 or a T-shirt that's just a Knicks T-shirt,
yeah, no.
I'm not doing that.
I wouldn't let you in the studio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. If it's him, though.
So a Kale jersey, something with his face or name on it,
that's
something
it.
like that. Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah.
Taking away Devon's key card.
Man, if we get to the finals.
You come in here in that nonsense, I'll kick you off the Wi-Fi. We'll be done.
I'm not getting ahead of myself. So let's just game by game. We got another one tomorrow. That's game 2.
Oh, I hate both those teams so much.
And look, folks, I said this yesterday I filled in for VG on Anthony's show. Game 4 will be the night of the lottery. So once we finish wrapping up everything with the lottery, I have a thing. We were talking about superstitions. I don't miss if I cannot, right? If I'm good, I don't miss a minute if I don't have to. I'm sitting right here, out here on our.
So come to the lottery show, and you can make fun of Devon for being a stinking New York Knicks fan.
Have at it, because I will be here until 7:30. So I'll be here till 9:45, 10 o'clock, watching the remainder of the game out there in our office here, watching the rest of the game at the studio. All right, a couple of other things around the NBA.
I can say that now. We're in overtime, and fuck Boston too.
That I agree with. All right, yesterday.
Man, we need to get your cousin traded, man. I can't put up with a couple more years of this.
I know. He's got another year.
Because
in his contract.
I want to be happy for you and your family, but in order to do that, New York has to be happy too.
You see what my mom
terrible,
said?
Man.
This is terrible. What my mom said? She said it's all right. Don't even worry about it.
It's terrible.
It is. Yeah, it's different. It's much easier if it was the Suns and not worrying about it at all. All right. Yesterday, the coach of the year. We did not vote for him at the beginning of the year as one of our choices.
No, we don't need to bring up who we voted for.
No, but I remember when we had the conversation that I was like, guys, I love Kenny Atkinson. I love this move for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Coach of the year.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the only one I would have thought of outside of that was maybe Daigneault, just because they won a bazillion games.
And even Detroit.
Yeah.
And even Detroit for Bickerstaff.
I
think that was the top 3 anyway. But yeah, I would have thought of Bickerstaff.
But they had such a massive turnaround from this year to last. When you change coaches and the roster mostly stays the same, it's hard to not he seemed like he was a shoo-in 2 months into the season.
Yes,
it almost felt like the race. And even while OKC was winning game after game after game, for him to come in here and make that immediate of a turnaround and that drastic of a turnaround, I mean, they won 64 games this year. They almost won 20 more games than they did last year. This was a pretty easy. And like I said, I think no, I did not. Kyle had Daigneault 2 years. I had Finch 2 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think we all respect what they did. But that's a juggernaut of a team. When you make an 18-game turnaround, you're going to get rewarded for it.
Yep.
It's just
absolutely so fantastic.
Incredible
work.
job. And for a guy who's been through a lot,
that Nets situation. I love Kevin Durant. They were wrong on that one.
Well, they made a lot of mistakes with that one.
But that was the start of it.
DeAndre Jordan.
That was 2.
There was a whole bunch of mistakes.
But the DeAndre Jordan thing might have worked if it wasn't Steve Nash. If it was Kenny Atkinson, it might have worked. But the point was you made a mistake. And you made a clear mistake. All right, Executive of the Year was also announced. That was earlier today, right? Yeah. That was today. Sam Presti, OKC.
I mean, look, you can just rename that one the Sam Presti Award because with the way they're set up, he should be Executive of the Year for the next decade.
He was, but I also thought about Connolly for the move that he made where we killed it, and it was a really good one for Julius Randle. It worked out. They advanced. And then what was the other one that I thought of for as Executive of the Year? I can't remember. It was another one I thought of the Executive of the Year. It wasn't LA for the Luka part. It wasn't that. But yeah,
it is like,
Sam Presti.
Sam Presti's not really getting rewarded for any moves he made over the last 12 months. Maybe the Caruso, but like that's not driving their winning. He's just a really nice piece that they added to it. Like it's a weird award because like if you're talking about this year, you might give it for the Luka trade because that was the biggest transaction and the one that's going to impact the next decade.
Yeah, that was in season, so I'm not giving him for that.
If you win a executive, like that will get them an executive of the year in future seasons.
Yes.
Even if it's not necessarily about moves they made during the season that they win. It's a strange award.
It really is.
Because like Sam Presti's getting this award because of decisions he made 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to the Daily Tankathon spin. See what we have here on this Tuesday. Do we do 1 or 2 here? Do we do 2? Well, you do 2 if you get like a 7. Yeah,
if we get the first pick, we're not doing a second spin.
No. You bail out at that point. Daily Tankathon spin today. Who do you have? Yesterday.
1. We got 1.
We got 1.
No kidding.
Done. Yesterday.
Any debate?
None. Yesterday, before the Flyers, for the NHL lottery, the Flyers had the number 1 selection on Tankathon. But that was yesterday. That was the day of.
I did. And look, I'm like all probabilities all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get nervous because of vibes or anything like that. I will say, if the Flyers had gotten the number 1 pick, there was a part of me that's like, there's no way that the universe is letting Philly get 2 number 1 picks in the same spring. So I almost feel a little bit more at ease now that the Flyers moved down.
And what about the fact that they fell to 6, which is
apologies
the
to
number.
Charlie and all that.
Yeah,
crew,
but they still get a
you
good
know,
player, number 6. But what about the fact that they did fall to 6, where that's where our threshold is for the Sixers, of course, is no further than 6.
Yeah. No, I have number 1 pick. Here we go.
Let's go. Cooper Flag. We don't even talk about everybody else. We're all good. We're all good.
That would be fantastic.
That would be wonderful for our month and a half and beyond going up into the draft. It would be great. What kind of discussions will we be having outside of Cooper Flag, the number 35 overall pick?
I mean, we'd probably be having discussions about like, well, what bone is he going to break?
Yeah.
What foot's going to, what tenion's going to snap because we can't have
gym,
nice
buddy.
things.
Yeah, stay out of the gym, buddy. And that would be it for Cooper Flag. All right. We want to let everybody know we will be back tomorrow. Before we get to the roll call, we will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Derek and I and Bree, so President of Basketball Ops, will be here. Derek and I will be here talking about, we doing What If? What If Wednesday? Yeah. We're doing a What If Wednesday tomorrow, folks.
You have any topic that you want us to talk about? Drop it in there.
Drop it in there. We do have a list.
We tend to come up with things that are not pessimistic, but maybe make you like, oh man,
why are you guys talking about this?
I really wish that would have turned out differently. So if you want to have a positive spin on What If Wednesday, drop it. Email us, drop it in our Discord, wherever.
So look, Bree always puts it up there on Twitter at PHLY_Sixers. So if you want to send it that way, or if you want to send it to our personal Twitter accounts, have at it at Derek Bodner NBA, at _Devon Givens, and you can hit us up there, or at PHLY_Sixers.
I think I've got my email in my Twitter bio. You can also, my DMs are open. So you can just
so if you want to let us know,
drop them in there.
A what if that you would like us to discuss on Wednesday that will trump ours that we might already have, let us know, and we'll consider that one for the show tomorrow. What if rainbows and sunshine? I need that. I need that badly later in the week, Gene. Thank you. But roll call. Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
It's the world famous roll call. Did you write your list?
No, I didn't. In fact, I closed. Well,
I'll
bring it up here.
You sure?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. All right. Let's get to it. We can say right away though. What up, Gene?
Gene, start off there. Provolone John. Joaquin from Cherry Hill.
What up, Joaquin?
Martian Lynch.
Martian, always good time.
Winona, even though she was giving you a little bit of hard time for the whole Knicks thing, we still have to give Winona a shout out.
She understands.
Bootzilla.
Okay. Boots.
Music Lover 31.
What kind of music lover? 31.
Yeah, he should.
Slow jams.
He should
probably like some slow jams.
That.
But what genre? Yeah.
Hedva. Colby Kolbs.
Love the show, Kobe, as always.
Did I say Martian? I think I said Martian.
You said Martian.
Mellow 3 Point.
Mellow, my man.
INS. Very angry. Very, very angry with Daryl Morey. That's fine.
Understandable. Maybe if you get Cooper Flag, that might change.
Money Mar.
What up, Mar?
Eugene Ross. Jeffrey Stewart.
Jeff.
Slade.
Always need a good theme music, Slade.
That we do.
Yes.
A lot of repeats. I really should have. I always give Kyle grief because like you got to jot names down in the middle of the show, but I wasn't.
I saw a mom in there, of course. I saw Val. Val was in there. Hey, Val. Hopefully we see you next week.
There's a username That's Crazy. That's
Crazy
topical.
Was in there. Yep. The boy RJ was in there as well.
Let's see. Brian Knight. I see Brian Knight. Smy Guy.
It's my guy.
Val was in there earlier on.
Yep. That's it.
A lot of repeat names.
Jada Jungle. What up, Al? Purple
Was
Heart.
he here? Or are we
Sal.
just,
no,
we
these are just
shout-outs
ones that
they're
we just know that
Lifetime
we just
Achievement Awards.
Yeah, I saw Rich in there. So what up, Rich? Like and subscribe, everybody. We appreciate everybody for hanging out with us on this Tuesday. Make sure that you do go like and subscribe to the show. That'll make the, again, president of basketball operations very happy because she is the greatest. So we give, of course, our props to Bree for producer extraordinaire, all the great work. When you do like and subscribe, you will get the alert, and it will sound something like this. And you know it's showtime. 3 p.m. tomorrow. We appreciate it. Derek, of course, as always, this is fun. Bree, you're the best. Everybody in the chat, we thank you for hanging out with us on this Tuesday to talk a little guard play with the prospects. We hope we're talking about them for many, many more days as we lead up to the NBA draft because they will be keeping that top 6 pick. And as Derek won tonight, this afternoon, the number 1 overall pick.
Important thing in my life.
Yes, it is. All right, for everybody, for all of us here, have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk to you on Wednesday right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.